Prosaic basics of Japanese tanka. Tanka equals 57577 syllabic letters. A Japanese tanka is a streak of 57577 go shichi shichi letters. Be advised, especially if you are non-Japanese, that a single Japanese letter, kana, straightly means one syllable. In Japanese language, a letter of kana equals a single syllable. That each and every kana composes one syllable is what you must first grasp to understand the Japanese tanka. This notion sounds so strange to English natives that it takes some explaining, with insightful examples. Special thanks to Monsieur René Descartes. Look at the following sentences in 4 different languages and see how many words, letters, and syllables they are composed of, and how they should be pronounced in Japanese syllabic units. Ancient Latin. Cogito, ergo sum. Cogito, ergo sum. 3 words, 13 letters, 6 syllables. Cogito, ergo sum. In 9 Japanese kana letters and syllables. Cogito, ergo sum. French. Je pense donc tu suis. Je pense donc tu suis. 5 words, 17 letters, 7 syllables. Je pense donc tu suis. In 9 Japanese kana letters and syllables. Je pense donc tu suis. English. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. 5 words, 18 letters, 6 syllables. I think, therefore I am. In 13 Japanese kana letters and syllables. I think, therefore I am. Japanese. 我思うゆえに我あり。我思うゆえに我あり。 5 words, 12 kana letters, and 12 syllables. In kana kanji combined letters, kana kanji 混じり文。我思うゆえに我あり。8 kana kanji combined letters, 12 syllables. As you can see, in Japanese kana writing system, one letter simply represents one syllable, with the exception of small vowels suffixed for palatalized consonants, yoon, as in ju, sui, and huo. In contrast, a single Chinese character, kanji, can both embrace only one syllable like a, and more than one syllable as in wa, re, o, mo, and yu, e. A single letter simply corresponding to a single syllable is a strange idea to English speakers indeed. In English, no single letter can stand alone to compose any meaning, with the exceptions of a, an indefinite article, I, a personal pronoun, o, an interjection, and you, a jesting abbreviation of you, Y-O-U. But even among these standalone exceptions, the only case of a single English letter corresponding to a single Japanese kana syllable is a alone. Even that a will often be pronounced in two Japanese kana syllables to sound like a, which goes to show the great distance between English letters, alphabets, and Japanese kana syllables. Japanese preference of letters and syllables to words. Let it be remembered that in Japanese, at least in poetic terms, the number of words, gosu, is much less important than, or indeed overshadowed by, the count of letters, jisu, that translates straight into that of syllables, onsetsu, which has the innate tendency to fall into 5-7 and 7-5 rhythmic patterns. Just ask any Japanese to count the number of letters used in the previous translation, and you'll see them pronounce it letter by letter rather than word by word, and easily get to the answer of 5 wa, re, o, mo, u, plus 7 u, e, ni, wa, re, a, ri equals 12 syllables and letters, while few Japanese could readily answer the number of words, 5, which constitutes that sentence. 1. Ware, shu, I. 2. Omo, pons, think. 3. Yue ni, donc, therefore. 4. Ware, shu, I. 5. Ari, sui, am. Just imagine yourself being asked the number of letters, not words, used in the English or French translations above. Could you get to the answer without using computing function of your word processor? In academic context, no Japanese examiners would ask examinees to sum up any meaningful sentences in 140 words instead of letters, while asking English counterparts to do the same in 140 letters, not words, would be a bad joke. Oh, forget about Twitter. We are talking in academic context, do you remember? A Japanese style follow-up to Cogito, ergo sum in 577 letters. In case you doubt the credibility of my proposition above, let us think about some suitable follow-up to the Japanese translation in 5-7 syllables of what Monsieur Descartes said. This time in 577 letter syllable Japanese, and completes them as 57577 tanka format. Original 5-7. Ware homo, yue ni ware ari. Ware homo, 5 Japanese letters. I think about my existence, 5 English words. Yue ni ware ari, 7 Japanese letters. Therefore, I'm logically sure that I exist, 7 English words. Follow-up 577A. Ara zaraba, waga ari nashi mo, omowa zaru beshi. Ara zaraba, 5 Japanese letters. If I did not exist, 5 English words. Waga ari nashi mo, 7 Japanese letters. Even about whether I exist or not, 7 English words. Omo wa zaru beshi, 7 Japanese letters. I would not begin to think about 7 English words. Follow-up 577B あればこそ我がありなしを思うべらなれあればこそ 5 Japanese letters because I actually do exist 5 English words 我がありなしを 7 Japanese letters whether I exist or do not exist 7 English words 思うべらなれ 7 Japanese letters It's possible for me to think about 7 English words. Follow-up 577C 思ゆは我があることの証なるべし思ゆは 5 Japanese letters The act of thinking 4 English words 我があることの 7 Japanese letters That I do exist 4 English words 証なるべし 7 Japanese letters must be a proof 4 English words Did you see how natural for Japanese language to fit into 5-7 or 7-5 letter syllable pattern, and what trouble this also took to translate them into corresponding 5-7-7 English words, and how he failed in the last one. A Japanese tanka of 5-7-5-7-7 letters is essentially different from an English tanka of 5-7-5-7-7 words. From the examples shown above, I think you have now clearly understood the following facts. Fact 1. Japanese language is innately conscious of the number of letters, kana, which automatically translates into syllabic numbers, while being less conscious of the number of words. Fact 2. Indo-European languages such as French or English are acutely conscious of syllabic rhythmic patterns, vaguely aware of the number of words, and are totally indifferent to the number of syllables, let alone letters. Japanese letters, kana, and syllables are identical with each other, while in English, letters, alphabets, and syllables are two different things. From this, it follows that a Japanese tanka of 5-7-5-7-7 letters and syllables cannot be straightly translated into an English tanka of 5-7-5-7-7 words. Translation is not impossible, but the word-based 5-7-5-7-7 English is essentially alien from a letter and syllable-based 5-7-5-7-7 Japanese, too much alien to be deemed even as distant relatives. I'd be the last one to deny the delightful linguistic efforts at composing something meaningful against 2x4 limitations, be it 5-7-5-7-7 words or 140 letters. But please don't confuse words and letters and believe a 31-word English poem is an authentic counterpart of Japanese tanka in the format of 31-letter syllable. So long as they go their separate ways, there'll be joy for each poetic path, but their paths will never cross. In trying to translate a Japanese tanka into English, it is meaningless semantically or rhythmically to mechanically tread the 5-7-5-7-7 path. Just expand or compress the original Japanese in as many English words as are needed, with as much meaning transplanted as can be without saying something different from the original. What I am going to present to you is a collection of Japanese 31-letter syllable tanka, supplemented with word-for-word explanatory translations of the original Japanese terms composing the poem, along with English poems, sometimes consciously forged into 31-word 57577 format. But this last attempt is mostly to show you how different tanka can be in Japanese and in English, and how futile such formal fitting efforts will turn out to be. A human heart can be medically transplanted from a donor to a patient by a good doctor, but the poetic heart of Japanese tanka can hardly be literally translated into English, even by the best of poets, not at least in its original 57577 syllabic life form. East is east and west is west. Never waste your time in trying to make the twain meet. Japanese tanka is genuinely Japanese, only to wither into something less or different outside kana boundaries. Hooray for Japan! What are you talking about? Let there be no misunderstanding. No way am I trying to impress upon you Japanese artistic superiority. On the contrary, tanka is a long-lost art of ancient-day Japan which still exists in its literal form, but not in its literary spirit or poetic beauty in today's less than arrogant Japanese. The poems I intend to introduce here are mostly written in the good old days style and terms of Heianese Japan. Japanese languages after the Muromachi era, circa 1330, have been, all of them, grammatically and terminologically, simply too prosaic in meaning and too vulgar in sound to come up to the aesthetic standards of Heianese Japanese. I have studied and acquainted myself adequately with the grammar, terms, and poems of the Heian era Japan, proficiently enough to write a series of logical guidebooks for Japanese college-bound students, and to enjoy reading and composing Heianese tanka for my personal pleasure. Don't take me wrong. I'm no evangelist trying to revive the anachronistic grace and exhort the miserably dejected Japanese of the 21st century. Those ancient poems which I will introduce here are guaranteed to give you artistic pleasure, but they are individual achievements of respective poets, no guarantee for Japanese national excellence. Japanese simpletons, beware against saying things like, tanka is our proud national heritage. The fact that those poems which I will introduce here sound totally archaic and alien to the present-day Japan will speak for itself. That is one reason why I'm writing this poetic introduction, except for the verse mainly in English, not in Japanese, in order to speak to people who would earnestly listen. Should any Japanese want to know, they should know what I'm talking about in English language. For those who can't even understand modern English, grammar, terms, and poems of ancient Japan, and anything meaningfully profound in today's world would be naturally destined to remain as alien and meaningless to their self-contained mindset. To deaf ears, no verse, if no prose, would I propose to cast. If you want to hear me say something meaningful, don't expect me to speak in your terms. Just walk up to me after being intellectually fortified with a command of English.